over here. And Gloria Backman, who stepped out front, we'll catch her when she comes back in. And we're a little delayed. We're waiting for our third panel member. And we heard from one of the panel members that the traffic is a little bit rough, so that might be accounting for it. Oh, yeah. Right on cue. But I have to say, thanks for coming out. There's a million things you can do on a Thursday night that probably wouldn't normally include this. So hopefully, this topic is enough of interest and something that needs to be threshed out a little bit for our community. That I think it'll be worth your time here. I should point out that the history of CUNFP, Citizens United in Forest Park, is not to be biased in any way on any particular topic. We have a good track record in the past and plan on continuing that tonight of trying to assemble panels of people that are experts in their field, and we've always been very lucky that people have come forward and been willing to contribute to our needs in this. And we try to get enough information out there so that those in attendance can form their own opinion. A comment was made earlier that good people versus bad people. We're all here to examine this issue. This is how some people make money. This is how other people. This is going to be part of their community. So there's all kinds of stakeholders. So let's not talk about good and bad. Let's try and find out what the facts are. So that's really going to be the investigation tonight. So Stan, do you want to take a seat at the table? Sure. So we've got two, we need a third. And if I got a lot of ad-libbing I can really do here. I don't dance, I don't sing. Go ahead, try. So, but maybe I can start by introducing the two gentlemen that we do have here so far. Again, in our situation here, we decided to get somebody from the industry of video gaming. We started, actually before this whole thing, really gelled in the end. We thought there might be experts with the Illinois Gaming Authority. They're going to have everything we need, blah, blah, blah. They wanted no part of this. And they didn't offer any information as to where to go. So it really became kind of a serious hunt on Gloria's behalf to come up with people that would come out and speak to this topic. So our focus tonight was to get somebody from the industry, and that would be Tim Latner here. He's with, I'll read a formal bio in a minute. He's with Latner Entertainment Group. And then the person that's not here yet, Kathleen Gilroy, she has worked tirelessly over the years to try and oppose gambling in all forms really in the state of Illinois. She's had some successes over the year that we may or may not realize are there. If you happen to play the lottery on the ticket, where it says 1-800-GAMBLING on that lottery ticket, she's responsible for getting the legislation pushed through to get that on the ticket. The same thing with casinos and other places where gambling takes place. She's made it, she was able to get influence on that to make sure that the same information is available in all of these places for people that may have issues with gambling. So we see, oh, that must be you. Okay, well, our third is here. Okay, so that's quite all right. So I was just speaking to you, and I'll read a formal bio. This is Kathleen Gilroy. And then our third, he's going to really focus on the citizens' perspective. We are a citizens group, and we are really going on, the basis for our being is to get citizens involved and show citizens that they have power in any setting. So Stan Zagel, here in the middle, is a Winfield resident that they've been fighting the issues of video gaming in their community. It's been on, it's been off, it's been on, it's been off. So he's going to give us a citizen's perspective on what they've dealt with. So let me do the formal bios right now. Let me get them here. Okay, so now we'll get back on track a little bit here. All right, I'll start again with Tim Latner, and to give you a little background on him. Tim Latner founded the Latner Entertainment Group in 2010, shortly after the Illinois Video Gaming Act was signed into law. The group's members represent a broad spectrum of entrepreneurship, compliance law, route service management, as well as marketing within the entertainment and gaming industries. The Latner Entertainment Group is a licensed terminal operator in Illinois and other states. The Latner philosophy states that companies interested in video gaming are not opening a mini casino. They're adding entertainment amenities for current customers. Video gaming is a highly regulated entertainment, so it is important to be sure that the video gaming operator is reliable, reputable, and licensable. They specialize in video gaming terminals, video poker machine operation, service route management, bar and restaurant entertainment amenities, and customized marketing promotions. So that's Tim Latner right there. And, as I mentioned, Kathy Gilroy, who showed up on cue. Kathy, who currently lives in Ville Park, was raised on a farm in Iowa and received a degree in mathematics from the University of Michigan. In 1988, her cousin was mayor of Davenport, Iowa, when the city allowed the country's first riverboat casino. In a very short time, she started to hear stories about the victims of gambling addiction in her own small hometown. Kathy's day job is in the insurance industry, but since 1996, by her own initiative, she has monitored the doings of gaming in Illinois. She has gone to almost every Illinois gaming board, racing board, and lottery control board meeting, and often speaks at their meetings. She is the success behind getting signs with the 1-800-GAMBLER number posted at all gambling locations, on the gaming board and racing board websites, and on lottery tickets and the lottery website. She has also advocated and succeeded in her efforts to allow public comment at lottery control board and racing board meetings. She has spoken against video gambling at meetings in DuPage, Cook, and Will County, and like many activists, she has the distinction of being cheered, booed, praised, and called a liar, and more in over 30 Illinois communities. And finally, Stan Zagel, as I introduced earlier, from Winfield. Stan, too, grew up in Iowa. Is there something in the water there? But eventually landed in Winfield in 1985. Stan states that Iowa is a place where you'd be laughed out of the state if you suggested naming a public structure after a living person, especially a politician still in office. Stan is a lover of European history, specializing in Austrian, German, and English history with the use of their language. He is a Kentucky colonel and an amateur thespian. Stan currently is the publisher of the Winfield Register. He believes a town without a newspaper is a town vulnerable to corruption. It needs a paper of its own, not one shared with several other nearby towns. Like other towns, Winfield used to be covered by 3 weekly newspapers. But with the newspaper business shrinking, they were suddenly covered by none. In 2007, he started the Winfield Register so that Winfield could again have a newspaper, knowing that it was unlikely to be unprofitable, and unlikely to be unprofitable. His motivation was to increase civic health. The newspaper is written by volunteers, supported by donations, subscriptions, and advertising. To quote Stan, "The bad guys hate it. That tells me we're doing something right." So, I'm glad that the three of you have taken time out of your schedules to come and participate in our forum here. I do want to explain a few things about the plan for how we're going to manage things this evening. Each of you will be allowed 15 minutes to speak about your perspectives on this issue. We'll start with Tim, followed by you, Kathy, and then Stan, you'll do the follow-up from the citizen's perspective. This is not going to come down to a debate. We know this is, in many cases, we're certainly learning. You know, this is a topic that, you know, is emotional. We've seen evidence of it online, other communities, how they dealt with it, and so on. So we're all here to get knowledge. We need to respect one another's opinions on what's happening here. We will, after they complete their talks, be taking questions from the audience. So we'll do our best. I will be doing my best to try and moderate that. So, you know, raise your hand if needed, and others I'm sure will be looking to see if I'm missing people or whatnot. So that's really the format, and you know, we're figuring that we should, with a little luck, we'll get to the question and answer period by 8 o'clock. So think about things. You may, you know, start to accumulate questions once you hear these people speak. So you know, we'll look forward to a healthy adult discussion, and hopefully everybody will be better informed. The one person I wasn't able to introduce because she went out front was Gloria Backman, my wife. She's sitting at the sign-in desk, and she is another member of the Citizens United and Forest Park Board. So we do have one elected official in here, Chris Harris. Over here, he sits on the
Rory Walker.
Oh, Rory, and Rory Hoskins. They're both commissioners in our town and sit on our town board. We have a past commissioner in the house tonight too, Marty Talalian. Marty, where are you? Thank you for coming, appreciate it. And I think without any more of me talking, let's move on to the program. So Tim, you're welcome to stand or sit, whatever makes you comfortable. Let's tell us about.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you for inviting me. As it was said, my name is Tim Latner. I grew up in South Hill Park. I attended St. Bernardine's Grammar School. I went to Fenwick, and I grew up in Forest Park. Even though my address was in Oak Park, I played sports in Forest Park. I am a Forest Parkin by the way of South Hill Park. That being said, my business career, I'm going to give you a quick highlight. I started trading commodities when I was 21 at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, where I successfully traded my own account, and I still have. I also started the Chicago Trolley Car Company, which is the downtown sightseeing business that you see in the city, where we have the on and off land-based sightseeing. I started that with 2 of my friends. We started with 8 used vehicles, and we built it up to a fleet of 50 in 5 years, with 150 employees. And in doing so, I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit of trying to get out there and start a business and earn a living. When the law passed in 2009 for video poker, I saw the bill and I saw the article in the paper, and I said, you know, this is something that I can do and grow and expand. And not only you know, as a business, but I thought of it a way as to maybe help my family and put some family members to work in the meantime. So I started going down the path of learning and educating myself on what I was getting into. And to be honest with you, I had no idea what I was getting into. Everybody said, oh, it's controlled by the mob. Everybody said, you know, it's bad business. Well, I kept on doing my research, and what I found out is that the gray machines that were out there in the bars for the past 30 years was controlled by what you would want to call a mob. And those machines in the marketplace were highly fixed machines, not to the player's advantage. And so, I had some reservations. Is this something I wanted to get into? And as I educated myself, I said, well, I learned that it's going to be a highly regulated business, and it's everything that you're not hearing is that it's really forcing the bad guys out because they can't compete in a regulated market. They're always the behind the door, behind the scenes type of guy, where this is all out in the open. Everything is going to be out in the open, and it's done by state law and the Illinois Gaming Board. So fast forward a little bit, I submitted my application to the Illinois Gaming Board in 2010. I finally received my license after going through a regulatory compliancy check that took over 2 years for me to get my license by the state of Illinois. And in doing so, I had no income coming in. I supported myself and my family, and all the while trying to figure whether this was going to be a viable business, even after I received my license. Well, turn the page forward after the lawsuit that the Works put through on the state. It passed, and finally the Illinois Gaming Board started moving the video gaming agenda down the road. Like I said, I received my license in February of 2012, and I put my first machine on the street in November of 12. And in the meantime, I had to hire staff and gear up and get ready to go. That being said, I have about 2 months underneath my belt. I got about 41 machines in the marketplace within 15 different communities. And we're looking, to continue to grow our business. That being said, let me tell you a little bit about what the responsibilities of a terminal operator are, okay? My role and my job is I have to go out and procure the location. That means I have to go talk to all the bar owners and people that own establishments and see if they want to do business with somebody like me. I have to go out and buy the machines. I have to go out and educate a staff to work on the machines and repair them. I have to have a sales staff on the street that will go out and keep the locations informed on how they're doing and what's going on. I have to make sure that the location is following all the rules and regulations that the state put forward. And then finally, I have to collect the money, and I have to make sure that the state gets their share and the host location gets their share. And then finally, after that, I'm able to pay my bills. The state split is in statute. So I can't go and make agreements with bar owners because all the rates and returns are in statute. And the way it breaks down is that at the end of the day, at the net win per unit per machine, the state gets 25%, the local municipality gets 5%, and the location and I split the balance, which is roughly about 35% each, or 50-50 after that. Now, that being said, the host location, they have to make sure that the machines are protected. They have to make sure that nobody's playing it that's under the age of 21. And they have to also be vetted out by the state. Right now, the current timeline for a location to be vetted out by the state is every bit of 6 months. From the time they submit their application to the time they're approved by the state. And that's doing the state is doing the background on everybody that's affiliated with that location and is approved is roughly about 6 months. And so after they get their license, we come in, we drop off the machines, we set them, we connect them to the state server, and we make sure that there is compliancy signs up, which would allow people to call in on an 800 number for a gaming problem and to find help. That being said, the industry that we're getting into is a very highly regulated industry, both for the operator as such as myself and for the host locations. It's no free pass here. The gaming board goes to great lengths to make sure that they're not allowing anybody in it that doesn't deserve to be in there. you know, it's not an easy industry. I thought it was gonna be easy, everybody thought it was gonna be money from heaven, it's not. It's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of hand-holding, it's a lot of educating, and it's a lot of dealing with a lot of telephone-type conversations when you deal with a community where one person says something here, and by the time it ends up 10 people later, it's completely distorted. You know, the gaming board, you know, went to great lengths and did their due diligence. It took 3 years from the time the bill was passed to get machines on the street. And if you look in other jurisdictions, by the time a bill is passed, it's usually 18 months max before those machines are up and running. In Illinois, it took over 3 years. They did a tremendous, you know, they took their time and they tried to do it right. Now, is everyone happy? No. I mean, nobody's ever happy with no matter what you do, but the state took their time and tried to do it right. With that being said, I am in the business to place these machines into host locations that people that want it. There's a lot of people that don't want it, and I respect their opinion, I think that's fine. But in my perspective, it's just another tool for the local establishments to help keep their doors open in light of what they see that's been hitting them over the past 5 years. The smoking ban has hurt the bar industry. You know, taxes on liquor is going up. It's just not easy to compete anymore in that local market. And I just see it as another tool and an entertainment tool to help these people out. In saying that, I just believe that the small guy here who was operating maybe, who had gray machines out there years ago, that is now a legal industry, and there's a lot of towns like Forest Park that didn't allow the grays, I guess. I don't know, but that's what I was told. And those bar owners now who have abided by the law have an opportunity to play in a legalized, highly regulated marketplace and, you know, hopefully make a little extra revenue to keep their doors open. So, I hope I educated or shed some light on what the process is. I know you probably got a million questions. I was trying to keep it condensed, and I look forward to answering any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. The questions, as I said earlier, will be after everybody has a chance to speak, the panel has a chance to speak. So second on the docket is Kathleen Gilroy.
Hi, I'm not good at talking off the cuff, so I prepared my remarks. Good evening. No one has paid me to be here, nor would I profit, as most proponents of video gambling would, if your community allows neighborhood slots. Those who would profit from your residents' pain will not tell you the ABCs of convenience gambling, which include addictions, bankruptcies, crime, corruption, child abuse, divorces, embezzlements, homelessness, poverty, and suicides. I have found that most towns don't care about those issues. So let's talk money. To generate $300,000 per year in taxes for Forest Park, families would need to lose $6 million per year. Of that $6 million, $2.1 million per year would go to your casino owners. Yes, the industry does call bars with slots casinos. Casino and a kiosk for your casinos as small as 5 machines. And the machines are exactly the same as what are in the regular casinos. $2.1 million per year would go to route operators, and $1.5 million per year would go to the state of Illinois. The state would debit their 25% and your community's 5% directly from operators' accounts. Forest Park would relinquish all control to the Illinois legislature, which in their desperate attempts to raise revenue could increase the number of slots allowed from the current 5 to 10 or more. The legislature could raise the tax on families' losses from the current 30% to 50% or more. Cook County has already approved a tax of $800 per machine. And the state did raise taxes on casinos after they opened. And less than a year after the 10th and last one opened, tried to double the number of casinos allowed. They're trying again. If the state allowed it, and easily could, slots could arrive in Forest Park grocery stores and gas stations. And they did that in Iowa. Forest Park would have no control over the situation at all. If the state increased their take, it would hurt Forest Park local businesses. Do you trust that the state will not try to tap every spigot of money that they can? According to Ed Pazel, Executive Director of the South Suburban Mayors and Managers Association, the funding for the Capitol bill is still available, whether Forest Park allows one-armed bandits or not. That $6 million per year in gamblers' losses do not drop from heaven. They come from families' pocketbooks. Are Forest Park family pocketbooks bulging with an extra $6 million per year? Are you concerned about Forest Park families or just the bar owners? The very first riverboat casino in Iowa had a $5 bet limit. Doesn't that sound quaint now? Do you want that same progression right here in town? Let me pose the progression a different way. First, food and drink sales decrease because that money is going into slots. Sales at other Forest Park businesses decrease because that money is also going into slots. Employees embezzle from their employers to play the slots. Then the money in the slots is taxed at a higher rate by the county and state, hurting Forest Park bars. Does that sound like a good business plan for Forest Park? A new Illinois business model is a hole-in-the-wall joint with 5 slots and a liquor license catering to middle-aged women. It's called Lucy's Place. Would you allow more liquor licenses in town to accommodate that type of business? They're setting them up in strip malls. When is enough enough? On July 26, a Pennsylvania mother left her 5 children, the youngest only 10 months old, in the car for an hour in the heat while she played slots. Are Forest Park moms immune to gambling addiction? Forest Park families could choose to not patronize Forest Park businesses on streets where their children would be exposed to gambling. Can you imagine the competing neon signs advertising casino? The gaming board eliminated the requirement that slots be hidden to those walking by. States and countries that legalized one-armed bandits many years ago, such as South Carolina, are now banning them. And Iowa got rid of theirs as well in the grocery stores and the gas stations. There was so much complaint from the public. Is Forest Park doomed to repeat their history because you're not able to learn from it? John Locke famously said, quote, "Government has no other end but the preservation of property," unquote. Do you think gambling in town accomplishes that goal of government? Law without morals is tyranny. No one is born an addicted gambler, yet over 9,000 people in Illinois have become so addicted that they have volunteered to be arrested if they are caught in an Illinois casino. They do not have that fear hanging over their heads like neighborhood gambling joints. One-armed bandits in Forest Park would attract addicted gamblers. On January 4th, the spokesman for the gaming board said that video gambling is going, quote, hog wild, unquote. Could those 9,000 gamblers be one of the reasons? 10 casinos were legalized with the promise of fleecing mainly tourists. It was found to be a lie because clientele of even large casinos come mainly from within a close radius of the casino. Forest Park doesn't even have the tourism excuse. The more accessible gambling is, the more likely that those who try it, your friends, neighbors, and relatives, will become addicted to it. People go to casinos with the intent to gamble. Neighborhood gambling seduces those who were intending to do something else. Freedom without morality leads to self-destruction. The proposed machines are not penny ante. How many times can you push a button per minute? 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. That's 60 times a minute. Let's say 25. At $2 per bet, that is $50 per minute, or $3,000 per hour. At a generous 90% payout rate, a Forest Park family would lose $300 per hour. How many hours would it take a Forest Park dad to lose his paycheck? Or mom to lose her mortgage payment? 3? How many hours are Forest Park bars open? You could lose the maximum jackpot back in as little as an hour. Did you know that the slots do not accept coins? Paper money only. You might as well say the minimum bet is $1. At a 1% addiction rate, which 160 Forest Park neighbors are you willing to sacrifice on the altar of profit? According to the California Council on Problem Gambling, over 60% of addicted gamblers commit crimes to support their habit. Which 96 neighbors do you nominate to be sentenced as first-time criminals because of Forest Park slots? Do you rank greater profits for Forest Park bars as more important than a friend who loses everything to gambling? At a gambling conference, I asked a route operator how I could bet 5 cents on his quarter machine. He said I couldn't. He said they will put in whatever denomination machines the market will bear, even machines that take only $2 bets, if the business could support that. Profit at all costs to society is their goal. Published by the University of Illinois Law Review and available online is an excellent 30-page paper by E. Tanner Warnick called, quote, "The Video Gaming Act, Gambling with Illinois' Future," unquote. In the section titled Social Costs, it says that when the state of South Carolina recriminalized video gambling because of its social costs, the number of Gamblers Anonymous groups dropped by half within 6 months of video gambling's removal. It dropped by another 25% in the following 6 months. Montana, the state with the highest number of video gambling machines per capita, also has the highest number of Gamblers Anonymous meetings. South Dakota, the state with the second highest number of machines per capita, has the second highest number of Gamblers Anonymous meetings. Government officials in South Carolina and Montana commented in a GAO report that, quote, "The atmosphere of convenience gambling created a negative environment and stigma in communities, which hurt local commerce and residential areas and had a detrimental effect on community investment. They discourage new business from coming in," unquote. Gambling is not new business. It simply redirects what could have been sales for Forest Park grocery stores, gas stations, furniture stores, thrift stores, even church collection baskets, mortgages, and rent. To quote Clayton Williams, quote, "If exploitation is inevitable, relax and enjoy it, or at least profit from it," unquote. It makes a lot of sense until you take, about 3 seconds to think about it. The logical flaw involves the notion that once we say yes to one vice, we ought to say yes to all of them. When someone mugs you and takes your keys, be sure to give them directions to your house. Video gambling, now called the crystal meth of gambling, was born of corruption. An elected official, leader in the community, and employee of a county sheriff's department was recorded bragging, quote, I don't normally use this language, "All them son of a bitches that stay pretty clean up there, the only reason they stay pretty and clean is because I do their dirty work for their ass," unquote, to describe his power over both law enforcement and legislators. The corruption in Illinois has already started. A local reporter caught a Forest Park trustee lying about his ownership of a bar on its application for video gambling. I took this picture of 2 young boys I don't know playing the slots at a slot machine show. The police were there. outside directing traffic. Gaming Board Chairman Jaffe said there is no way that their agents can regulate the entire state. They are relying on help from local police who have failed miserably in their regulation of, quote, for amusement only, unquote, and lottery machines. Do Forest Park police include lottery machines in their underage things? Why not? Then why would they include slots? Jay Price of Columbia wrote to the South Carolina Free Times, quote, as a retired amusement operator for over 25 years in New York, I was on the ground floor of the video poker era. Law enforcement had no clue as to what these games were all about. And it was only through complaints by spouses that their husbands had lost all their paychecks playing these games that the heat started to roll in. The money that these games made in the course of a week was in the thousands per machine. And in order to keep them on premise, the payoffs to law enforcement authorities and politicians were unbelievable. The problem with the whole thing is it takes from the ones who can least afford to lose. I can't begin to tell you the toll on families that I had personal contact with that lost everything they had. Unquote.
I'm sorry you've run out of time.
Okay.
But thank you very much. Stan, you're the follow-up guy.
All right.
Well,
You know, when you go to Europe, to an old city, the cathedral, you go to the cathedral, the pulpit's out in the middle, because they didn't have PA systems. So you wouldn't have a PA system here, and so I'm just going to come up a little closer to you, and maybe that'll be easier for you to hear me. I come from Winfield. For those of you who don't know where Winfield is, it's the center of the universe. Our eastern suburb is Wheaton. And historically, we always used to, and Wheaton was a dry town. You know, Wheaton College is there. And in the past, Winfield was not dry. And so we used to say to the Wheatonites, we come over and use your churches, you come and use our bars. You know, and it worked out. Well, we've had, you know, a recent experience with video gambling proposed in Winfield. And you know, to make a short story, to make a long story short, I can do the other if you like. It really gets down to what you want and how you want people to think of Forest Park. Okay, it's what's the image that you want Forest Park to have. Now, you know, you're going to hear arguments on both sides. The money arguments you just got to disregard. Okay, they'll come in and say, you know, people will come in and say, oh, well, hey, you're going to get the village is going to get $300,000. You're not going to have to pay that in tax. You may have lower tax out of it. Well, let's do the math. This is why I say you just have to ignore all those arguments. It takes $250,000 being bet. You have to bet $250,000 before the village gets $1,000. Okay? Wow. Those are the statutory rates. All right? If you want $300,000, that's $75 million that has to be bet. If you figure out the average bet, it turns out that you have to apportion that. You would have to have in the typical bar, you've got 10 or 11 bars, right? Okay. It turns out that around the clock, 24/7, they would have to have 17 bets every minute in order to generate the number of bets to do the $75 million. Now, by law, there's a maximum of 5 machines in a bar. I don't know if any of them are asking for that. But when you've got to put in 17 bets a minute around the clock, and you've only got 5 machines, I don't know how you would achieve that. And that's why I say, ignore all the numbers that anybody's throwing around that, oh yes, we should do this because it's going to bring in money to the community. You really have to think of it in terms of what's the image you want to have. And I think Forest Park is, or is it Park Forest? Oh, you don't like that? Why is that? The place used to be called Harlem. Why isn't it called Harlem anymore? Did somebody want to change the image? And that's what it really gets down to. Do you want to be known as the place that has video gambling? Do you want to be known as a place that is an oasis that doesn't have it? Kathy talked about some of the social costs. And Tim has talked about some of the benefits of helping keep the taverns in business. It's an economic lifeline for the taverns. You as the public really need to decide that. You know, you may decide, for instance, that if the taverns, if not having video gambling here might make it less attractive to taverns, and that they move to a place that has it, what does that do to what you think you want your image of Forest Park to be? You know, it's those sorts of things. Not every problem needs a solution. So you need to decide what you want the town to be, and then try to implement it. Now, in Winfield, we had a similar situation. We had banned video gambling, as I think almost every community did as soon as the law was passed, because they wanted to, figure out what was going to go on. And we had a surprise. One trustee at a meeting just brought it up and said, "Oh, let's pass it." And it went through the short process. And it was supposed to be $45,000. It turned out it would take about $48 million out of 2 bars, or Tim tells me there's a third one I wasn't aware of that was going to do that. But like I said, you've got to disregard all those figures. Now, in Winfield, we have a board that is worthy. Well, you remember Harold Washington, guy in Chicago? Okay. You know, what was his advantage? He came pre-indicted. He'd already served his time in prison when he was elected, right? We've got a board that is so out of control, the state's attorney has put them on probation. I'm sorry, it's just true. You know, and we like to, we're in DuPage County, you know, we think we're not Cook County, we don't have crime and corruption. But anyway, so they turned around and they passed, they repealed the ordinance against video gambling, and so it was allowed. The residents had spoken against it and didn't like that. And so they exercised a right that you have as well, and that is they put it on the ballot. Now, there are 2 ways that you can put something on the ballot. There's the election code, 10 ILCS 10 for the, or 5, 10 ILCS 5 for the attorneys in the area. And under chapter 28 of that, if you can go out and you can circulate petitions for anything. As long as you have 5% of the vote for governor, that many signatures, turn it in, it goes on the ballot. And if your proposition to require cats to be groomed like poodles, or whatever it is passes, it's there. Suppose you do something, speed limits, whatever. On the, you call it the commission, village board, you call it the commission, all right. Remember, but the commissioners have a moral duty to follow it, but not a legal one. So if you were to do petitions, put video gambling on the ballot, and vote it down, say we don't want video gambling, or we do want video gambling, the commissioners do not have to legally follow that. Morally they do. I mean, they're employees after all. You hire them every 4 years. How dare they go against what the bosses ordered? And even as employees, you got to remember that they're only temps. They've only got a 4-year contract. So that's why I say it's morally binding, but they can't go to jail for ignoring it. Now, there is a second option, and that's the option we did in Winfield, and I think we are probably the only community in the state that did it. We did a binding referendum. Now, that's a lot harder. And it's not done under the election code. It's done under, for you attorneys present, 230 ILCS 40/70. And that requires, and you know, I don't think anybody ever thought anybody would do this, because when the gambling law was going through, I think, you know, there's compromises between the lobbyists and everything. And they said, okay, we'll let you have this, where people can put a binding referendum in. But instead of the requirement, the signature requirement, being 5% of the vote for governor in your town, it's 25% of all the registered voters. That's a lot of people. And, you know, since one group won't allow the voter registration rolls to be purged very easily, it's still a lot of people there, you've got an artificially high number, because a lot of the numbers that go into making that 25% don't really exist anymore. But if that's the case, if you do it that way, it is irreversible. It is binding on the commission, and it is irreversible. The commission can never repeal it, and there's nothing in the statute that allows an election the other way. There's no binding election to reestablish video gaming. Well, that's what we did in Winfield. We had 1/3 of the voters actually signed the petitions to put it on the ballot. It passed by 57% to 43. And I was stunned that nobody from, I think we're the first village that did this under the Video Gaming Act. And I thought for sure, you know, the industry would be coming in and you know, telling people about this and really find this, rather than allow this precedent to be established that, hey, you can get 25%. I think the tavern owners didn't tell you that's the section of the law that was going under. But it did. Now, of course, our village board, still unindicted. You know, the village attorney prepared the necessary paperwork to update the village code. You know, that section that says video gaming is allowed in Winfield. So she prepared the amendment. You know, I mean, people have passed the referendum. Our board refused to pass it. Yeah. So you look up, you go to the village code of Winfield on the web, and it says, oh yeah, gambling is permitted. But, you know, of course, the people have forbidden it, and, you know, but they refused to update the code to reflect it. I don't know what goes through their minds. But I'm sure the state's attorney is looking at that as well. So it boils down to, what do you want to have? And if your commissioners are receptive, responsive to what you say, then that's what you should get. If, however, they're not, you do have the option. You can put it on the ballot. Shall video gambling be permitted? And you get a yes vote and you can have it. Or put it on the other way, shall it be prohibited? So you have those options through petition and through, and you may not need that, maybe just through the goodwill of the commissioners by gauging public sentiment short of a referendum. You might have that as well, but it is a power that you do have. It's a reserve power that you can, if you want to, do a cram down if you have to, depending upon your views. Oh, that's all I have.
Okay, we've noticed over the years that once the questions start and everything, that people will start to drift off and so on and so forth. So we wanted to get.
I've got some good jokes.
I wanted to get our customary thank you gift. This is, Forest Park. We have the world famous Forever Can candy here. And the residents might be sick and tired of it, but it's usually for people outside the community. I hope you find it the same way. So we kind of made you each, the super deluxe pack here. So hopefully it's a decent representation of their product, that they'd be happy. So again, thank you very much for coming out here on your time. You can look up to us.